for CPPR Live. Today, we have someone that the past 19 interviews I've looked up with this man, every single person on their podcast says, he's my hero. He's my idol. He's this, he's whatever. Sure, I agree. And I'm right there with you because this person before us today, folks, is an accomplished filmmaker. And I don't want to speak too much out of term and say, hey, he currently has the greatest trailer I have seen in maybe 10 years since whenever Iron Man dropped for that movie. And the ability that this person has comedically, and not only just being on stage with his charisma gives me hope for my own future. Zach, the first question everybody wants to know, even if we did talk for 5 minutes before this about Iggy Pop, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for such a glowing introduction. That feels a little crazy for me to hear that, but I appreciate it nonetheless, man. It's very kind of you to say.
Why crazy for you to hear that?
I don't know if it's fair for me to say I'm an accomplished filmmaker yet. I've made one movie that hasn't been released. What if it's totally tanks and everybody hates it and it's a disaster? You never know. I just think it's a little premature.
That is definitely true, but with the way the trailer is and the way the film's been cast and the people you have doing the score, regardless, let's say Jeepers Creepers didn't do well in the early 2000s,
sure.
Gain that cult audience. I think
I will say that the movie that I made was the movie that was in my head. So for me, like, Barbarian is a success already, whether it's received how I would hope it's received or not. Like, I'm immensely proud of the movie. I can say with like totally clear eyes that like I did what I wanted to do with it. So the rest is gravy, if it works with the public.
Yeah, throw it on some mashed potatoes, throw it on some turducken. I hear
there you go.
But so first question, other than I'm glad you're doing okay. What drew you to pick Georgina Campbell as Barbarian's protagonist Tess? Other than her, and I know you quote said, her being unable to have a false moment as an actress.
I saw her in an episode of Black Mirror, and I just, she's so easy to connect with. There's just something about certain actors that have this like natural empathy within them that kind of works both ways, where like you can believe that they have this like sort of a kindness, but also it's easy for us to empathize with them as well. So she just has these like huge eyes and this expressive face, and she's so natural. I've never seen her have a false moment, and I just knew, I was like, if I could get her to do this movie, I'm going to be in great shape, because I really know that like when it comes to directing, casting is like 95% of it. If you have the wrong actors in the roles, like you're up the creek. You can't do anything. And if you have the right actors, then you just have to step back and let them do their job. And so I just got so lucky with my three leads, where they were all three people that were like kind of my top choice for the roles. And I didn't have to do much on set except give a little bits of nudging here and there, and it was mostly like, hey, a little bit bigger, a little bit quieter, stand a little bit more like that. Okay, good. Like, that was like pretty much how I directed this movie. It was just degrees of adjustments. I didn't have to have any big conversations about like, your motivation and anything like that. They came very equipped. I was really, really fortunate.
Well, I'm glad that everybody came equipped, and thankfully I got to spend a little bit of time. I haven't seen the film yet. Please, no spoilers, don't kill me. But at the San Diego Comic-Con, you and Justin Long, to say that you guys have real chemistry together would be an understatement. And you said that when you're thinking of who to cast for the film Barbarian, you needed someone to completely embody the opposite of Georgina Campbell. Quote, what is the opposite of Tess? Justin Long. A piece of blank. A real piece of blank. So, Zach, what was it like working with Justin? And why did you really cast his toilet paper friendly ass?
Well, it's really funny. When I say I got my first pick for everyone, that's not true for the role of AJ that Justin played. Wow. I wrote that, it's not a spoiler to say that he plays a very despicable character. He plays an actor who is accused of something horrible, and I had in my head kind of a list of obvious choices of actors that were like young and buff and like biceps and a haircut and a jawbone, and and I was just thinking like a little bit too kind of on the nose for a douchebag, and then as I was kind of sitting with this decision, and you go through these lists with the casting director, and you kind of like start talking about who would be ideal. I already had Bill, I already had George. I had this realization that like casting someone who is so obviously good at being a jerk is too easy. What I need is to cast somebody who is like so likable and charming and friendly. Like I was like, I need Tom Hanks. Like who's Tom Hanks? And then it was like really, honestly, like right there, I was like, Justin Long is Tom Hanks. Like that guy is like the friendliest, sweetest dude that you would never suspect of being, you know, any sort of a nasty guy. So let's go. Let's go to him. And he read it and he got it immediately. And I was a fan of his. I mean, I've always thought Justin is phenomenal. You know, from like Idiocracy to Drag Me to Hell. You know, on and on and on. He's just whenever he shows up in a movie, I'm excited to see him. And so yeah, once we had that idea, it was like a no-brainer. It was great.
Heck yeah, no, I'm a big Justin Long fan myself, and it's interesting to hear that because one of the main contrasts for this next question, you're talking about, you know, Justin Long, he's that sweetheart. He's the person that
Yeah.
go home and watch Dodgeball with my mom. She's like, he is so sweet and so nice in this movie.
Yeah.
If you watch like Zach and Miri Make a Porno, and he's the douchebag porno guy, and
yeah, like Justin St. John or something. I can't remember his name, but he's so funny in that movie.
Yeah, like he has that. I bear with me with the actor's name, but I believe it's John Cazale. That he could play someone so likable and at the same time despicable.
Yeah.
And, yeah. With that in mind, from what I've read, no spoilers, you shot Barbarian in Bulgaria at points. Is this true?
That's true. That's true. Okay.
So a little bit of a puff piece question, but what are the biggest differences between your hometown of Arlington, Virginia,
right,
and Bulgaria? Are there any blinding similarities?
There's no blinding similarities whatsoever. No, I mean, yeah, I grew up in the suburbs of DC, pretty regular middle class upbringing. I mean, Bulgaria was a real eye-opening experience to go shoot over there. But I got to tell you, like, they treated me so well. They have a lot of crews. They're professional. They know what they're doing. They're very capable. They were able to give me on a shoestring budget a movie that looks like a real Hollywood movie. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to watch this movie and have a problem with the production value. It looks great. You know, this movie takes place in some rough neighborhoods of Detroit, and we were never going to be able to shoot in Detroit just for cost. And we built neighborhood. We built an entire neighborhood in Bulgaria. So we built like 13 house facades on like an empty street, and we're able to just like build it in different timelines, you know. So it's like modern day, and then we have a flashback in the movie where the neighborhood looks completely different, and all of that would have been cost prohibitive in Detroit or in LA or anywhere here. So it was kind of by necessity that we went to Bulgaria, but like the people over there were so good, they were so enthusiastic. They just really enabled me to make the movie I wanted to make. I loved it.
Heck yeah. I hope at some point maybe you get to go back there. Did you get to try any new foods or anything?
Oh, the food is great, man. Like what we think of as Greek food is like Bulgarian food. Like they invented feta cheese, and the feta that you get in Bulgaria is like a different animal than the feta that we pass off as feta here in the States. It's like, it's sad the quality of our dairy when you travel the world and you taste like the real deal. It's a totally different thing.
It's a difference between street regulated Springfield, Massachusetts PCP and unfiltered Whitest Kids You Know PCP.
Exactly. One is liquid, comes in a gallon. There you go. You've got it. All right. Not PCP.
For the next segment, this is brought to you by PCP and the greatest comedy group that I ever watched on Fuse after school.
Thank you very much. That's amazing.
Okay, Zach. This next part, I'm kind of stealing from my other hero, Conan O'Brien.
Oh, great. Mine too. I love Conan.
All right. And buddy, this is great. Your favorite band you talked about on that show is/was Radiohead.
Yes.
And you talked about crowd surfing at a gig where Tom York yelled at you and was like, "Don't, being a fucking dickhead. Look at my eye. Look at my eye. You're being a fucking dickhead."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, other than, we could talk about Conan forever and that'd be beautiful, but have there been any other moments in your life where you felt almost completely embarrassed, completely, as I do that in front of you, completely embarrassed by an idol or a colleague of yours?
Ooh, oh God. Well, I'm sure that's happened. And completely embarrassed by an idol would be definitely Tom York. I mean, dude, I feel like my life has been a series of humiliations. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of a good story that I haven't told before, and
That'd
it's
be
not
good.
like, grossly inappropriate.
You can
Um,
do it. You can go anything. Sky's the limit.
well, I mean, I think I also told on Conan the story of my one of my first acting gigs. So I don't know. So that one I guess I should take out.
I do
Uh,
know about the white boy story.
yeah, the white boy story comes to my
Still
mind.
good though.
Was that?
It's still a good one though. Yeah.
It's yeah. I like that story. Um, I don't know. Although, can I tell you this? So there's a part of the Conan Radiohead story that they told me to take out that I think is actually the best part of the story. So how about this? Can I kind of like retell that story because I don't think that anyone watching this is going to go watch that on YouTube. So I'll tell it and then I'll give you the proper ending that I think is like totally insane.
That would be awesome. Those damn
Okay.
paranoid androids. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm in 11th grade. I go see Radiohead, my favorite band at this club called the 930 Club in DC. At the time, I'm very, very punk rock, and I go to punk rock shows every weekend, and I'm always like, at that time, moshing and slam dancing and like crowd surfing was just what I did every show I ever went to. So that's just what
Right.
I thought was normal. And so I go see Radiohead, and they're playing the song Black Star. This is on the Benz tour, so that should tell you how long ago this was. It was their second album. Like they were not the Radiohead, the global phenomenon that we know of today.
They were still reeling in high and dry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they're playing that song Black Star, and my buddy Ryan, I'm like, boost me up, I want to crowd surf. So he like boosts me up. No one has crowd surfed this whole show. I'm the first one to do this. It's like midway through the show. It's like there's been no precedent set of this happening. So no one is on guard for anything like what I'm doing. So I go jumping towards the stage. So everyone is not looking backwards. Why would they? So I just like plow into like 5 people and like bring them all down. Like I mean it's bad. Like we
Yeah.
fall into a big heap of bodies. I'm like standing on people as I'm like trying to get up, and it's like, oh, that didn't go well. And as I stand up, like I realize that the music has stopped, and Tom York, my fucking idol, is pointing at me, and he's like, "You dickhead! No more crowd surfing! People who crowd surf are dickheads!" And he like screams at me, and it's really humiliating. And I go like slinking off to the side. He's like, "Finish the song!" And they finish the song. The song is over, and then he like looks for me again, and he sees me over there. He's like, "You fucking dickhead!" It was so embarrassing, right? And then the show ends, and my buddy Ryan is like, "That was you, man." He was like screaming at you as we're like walking out into like the flow of people, and like everyone is like looking like, who's the asshole? I was like so embarrassed. So anyway, cut to like 12 years later, maybe more. My buddy Ryan is in DC and he meets this guy Alfonso, who's like this mutual friend of ours, and they put together that they were both at the same Radiohead show so long ago. And Alfonso's like, "Oh, dude, I have a fucking crazy story about that show." And Ryan's like, "Buddy, I have a fucking crazy story about that show." And Alfonso's like, "Okay," so he's like, "Let me go first. I'm there with my girlfriend, and some asshole crowd surfs and kicks her in the back of the head. We both go down. She bites through her tongue, like almost severs her tongue. Like blood's coming down. Like we get taken backstage to like be looked at by the security because it's like a medical emergency. So we're backstage like for the whole show getting her tongue fixed. Radiohead comes back. We hung out with Radiohead all night long. They felt so bad that she got hurt. We like hung out with her. It was like it ended up being like the coolest night ever for both of us, like best night of our lives. And then he's like, "What's your story?" And Ryan's like, That was me and Zach. like they put together that yeah. Anyway, fucking insane, man.
It's the fact that you weren't allowed to tell it on Conan. What the hell?
I knew Conan was like, well, he didn't ever know. It was his like kind of pre-interview guy was like, take the ending out. And I was like, that's the craziest part. But what are you gonna do? Anyway,
thank you for sharing that.
Oh, sure. Thanks for indulging me.
Yeah, that was like AM Carlin and FM Carlin, but going off of Radiohead things now, just out of curiosity, 2016, Moonshaped Pool drops. What did you think of it as an album?
I really liked it. I mean, it was definitely, to me, felt like a bit more of a focused, more mature album. You know, like In Rainbows felt like they're playing with a lot of different colors and making like, you know, there's so many different styles of Radiohead on that one album. And I felt like Moonshaped Pool was definitely much more consistent and like a narrower lane. But I don't mean that as a complaint. It was just more of like they focused on something for that. I really, really enjoyed it. It's one of the few Radiohead albums, though, that I think I probably know the least. Like I've probably only listened to that album through like maybe under 10 times, which is weird. Usually I'll burn a Radiohead album to death. Like we're like at this point, I don't think I can listen to OK Computer that much anymore. I'll probably listen to OK Computer like less than 5 times for the rest of my life if I think about it, because I've sucked every ounce of serotonin that my brain can release out of that record already. You know, I'll like listen. It's like on a Neutral Milk Hotel album. You know, it's like where I'd listen to like The Airplane Over the Sea 100 times, and now I'm just waiting. It's like I'll listen to it maybe when my child is born, or on like, you know, on my deathbed, or like when my mom dies. You know, I'll like save it for like big life moments. It's like I have that for a lot of Radiohead stuff, but like Moonshaped Pool, I haven't hit that limit with yet. So I think I have a few more listens in me.
Damn. Well, thanks for sharing that, because I think also I haven't listened to it more than maybe 4 or 5 times, but the amount of, to say, emotional damage that Tom York displays, let alone as a fan like yourself, you know, people have so many B-sides or bootlegs, and they did follow through with a lot of music that they've kept on the back burner for a while.
Yeah.
Was their final project, which I hope not. It's fitting in a sense, but this is not my interview. It's yours.
Let me ask you a question though. Do you find that like a lot of times my favorite albums or my favorite music will be things that I don't necessarily understand my first and sometimes my second and sometimes my third listen. Sometimes I'll have to listen to an album like it'll be the 4th time where it will like click, and I'm like, I get it, I understand it now. And then and those are always the records that I find so much more deeply rewarding. Do you have that, or do you generally like kind of figure out what you like immediately and stick with it?
Thank you for asking that. The first time I heard Moonshaped Pool, I remember being like, wow, this is very sad and depressing. But I listened to it all the way through and I was like 7 out of 10. Came back to it the next time. The amount of depth in just the soundscape, and they always get comparisons of like Miles Davis of 90s bands. Like, there's a lot with that record. But thinking of things now recently, I'm a big Vampire Weekend fan. That last album, the first time through, I was like, this is just an Ezra Koenig album, and there's maybe 2 songs that, you know, Rostrum helped him out with. The more I listen to it, it's not only, it kind of is that Ezra Koenig album as someone that when that band started, constant Paul Simon comparisons, constant things, whatever. He's kind of embracing his own life at that point where the band's broken up. And, you know, it's, I think, their worst album, but it's still a solid 8 out of 10 and a really good. Yeah. So with that and band projects in mind, thanks for picking my brain. You have a band, and tell me if the name is incorrect, Saran.
Yeah.
Okay. So explain for the folks at home what exactly a Reptile milk flower is, and do you have any more plans to make some of that avant-garde jazz?
No. Well, it's not jazz necessarily. I have a band, Sirhan, and it's me and Ryan from my Radiohead story is in the band with me. It's me and some guys that I've been friends with forever, for decades. And we're not even really functional. It's like we were active in New York for a while. We played a few shows. We opened for the Violent Femmes at Irving Plaza. That was like the biggest show we ever did. It was super fun.
Hell yeah.
And then, we just stopped being active. And eventually everyone kind of moved out to LA in a slow trickle. And a couple of summers ago, we were like, we should just write an EP in our free time. So we got together and we wrote this EP. Put it on Spotify. We've never played any of those songs live. It was more just like a bedroom sort of a thing. But I like it. It sounds kind of... my buddy Trevor described it as like futuristic Beach Boys, which is like, okay, that sounds about... I'll take that. It's like weird tropical space music that I really enjoy, and it's not anything I take super seriously. And we haven't gotten together and made music in a couple of years, but it's up there if anyone wants to listen to it. And Reptile Milk Flower, to answer your question, is nothing. I wanted to think of three objects that occur in nature that have nothing to do with each other. And that's the beginning and the end of the thinking there. It's just like reptile, milk, and flower. They're unrelated, but they kind of sound pretty together. And it's just three random things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks for explaining that. But with that project, I know that I'm pretty sure you mixed it and you mastered it and you did the vocals yourself.
No, I did the vocals and I played some instruments on it, but it was mixed by Ryan and his brother Hayes, and it was mastered by another guy named Ryan. I can't remember his last name, who I think has also mastered like Grizzly Bear and some stuff like that. But it was a while ago.
Well, I know maybe not future plans or doing anything, but I really like how reverb soaked that album is. I know it's.
Thanks so much. Thanks for listening, man. I appreciate that.
I'm gonna, if it's okay, I'll probably edit in some music at the beginning of this.
Yeah, do it.
But all right, moving on. Puff piece question: true or false? Tipper Gore is your first cousin.
False. She's my mom's first cousin.
There you go.
Yeah.
Internet lies. Okay. And then second true or false question. Now this bit is a little less boring. Is your great grandfather Carter Braxton one of the signees of the Declaration of Independence?
If that's true, I don't know.
Who the fuck is coming up with these things?
I don't know, but I can tell you that I am related to the president, Zachary Taylor, who's not a good guy. He's on the wrong side of history. A lot of my ancestors were on the wrong side of history. I think I'm distantly related. I could be wrong about this, but I think I might be distantly related to Robert E. Lee, which is problematic for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I know I have a bunch of other gnarly Southern people in my family tree. It's not a pretty picture looking back. It's really not. You know, I'm not going to deny it. It sucks.
Oh. But one of the things that, at least in your lineage of Robert E. Lee-dom, that makes you stand out is this next question. On February 16th, 2018, you tweeted, "Why is it that Republicans argue against gun control, claiming people will be able to access guns illegally, yet they don't share this view when it comes to drugs? It was always easy to find illegal pot, but they have no problem with the war on drugs. Why not the war on guns?" So Zach, or former descendant of Robert E. Lee, Zach, I was wondering if you could expand on this now that there have been ongoing assault weapon changes to gun legislation in 2022. And do you think that your tweet spurred this continued change?
Well, I'm not, obviously I don't think my tweet had anything to do with it. Yeah. I think I agree with myself. You know, I often have an evolving view of all kinds of things, but I do think that, I do think there's too many guns. Here's the way I think about it. If I have a conversation with someone who is like against gun control, kind of my first question is like, do you think that anyone should be able to like buy a grenade launcher? Mm-hmm. And generally people are like, no, of course not. And I'm like, okay, so then we both agree that there's a line, right? There's a line at which like you should not just be able to have access to any sort of weapon. So we both agree there's a line. We might not agree on where that line is. I don't think you should be able to buy assault rifles. I just don't think any idiot off the street should be able to walk into a store and buy something that can kill a crowd in a matter of 30 seconds. I just don't want to live in a society where like that's okay. It scares me too much. Like it happens all the time, almost every day. There's a mass shooting in this country, and it's like it doesn't have to be like that. So that's all I'm saying is like, you know, we might not be so far apart in our thinking as we think. And I also wish it wasn't so hateful, the dialogue about this stuff. You know, it's like you can disagree with me. I don't know what your stance is. I'm talking to anyone. You can disagree with me about my opinion on gun control. It doesn't mean I think you're a bad person. You know, I think that's something that is getting lost in the discourse today. Is like, we don't agree, you're my enemy. It's like, no, like we can both be like neighbors and countrymen, and like you could be a great guy and I could be your friend. Like, we don't have to agree on gun control. It doesn't put us at like odds with each other as people. I feel like that's a really sad thing of like the discourse today, is that like, we don't agree on these issues, so you must be a piece of shit and I must hate you. It's like, that has got to stop. That's so damaging, man. It's really tough.
Yeah, and not to pry or whatever, but I completely agree with everything you said, especially that not mortar launcher, but the grenade launcher.
Yeah.
But I just realized, not to break up the interview, it says time left to record.
I see it. 8 minutes. Look, if you have to, you can I think you just end it, and then I can email you one if we want to keep going, or you can email me another. It's not a big deal if we have to like interrupt it and come back on. It's all good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Zach.
Cool, man.
This guy, like, what, like crazy, like so cool.
This is a song that I wrote. It's called Fake Radiohead Song.